I was on my way to my daughter's home for dinner, eagerly anticipating a warm evening with my family. As I drove, my lawyer, Michael, sent me an urgent text message asking me to call him immediately. A sudden jolt of worry went through me. I quickly dialed his number, and what he told me about my daughter completely shocked me. I could hardly believe what she was trying to do. Just moments earlier, my hands had been steady as I reviewed our quarterly reports, but they went numb when Michael's name flashed across the screen with a note about an emergency involving my daughter, Erica. For 30 years, I had been building my company, Hansen Tech, and I had never seen Michael write the word emergency when it concerned my family. I quickly made the call before my phone's screen went dark. His voice was as hard as steel as he warned me that Erica had filed a lawsuit against me. She intended to have me declared incompetent to run the company. The words hit me like a splash of ice water. I could not believe what I was hearing. It was impossible. She was my daughter. He explained that she had gathered a group of shareholders who were claiming I had lost my edge due to emotional instability. I sank into my chair, staring out at Seattle's skyline through the floor-to-ceiling windows. The view was a blur. It was the same view I had watched for decades while building this company for her future. I asked how much time we had, and Michael told me the hearing was scheduled in just 1 week. He emphasized that we needed to act fast. My mouth went dry. 1 week. He explained that Erica had been meticulously preparing this for months, compiling extensive documentation, including financial records that supposedly showed erratic decisions and testimonies from board meetings. I stood up and began to pace between my desk and the window. Rain streaked the glass, looking like the tears I couldn't shed. I asked what kind of testimonies they had, and he replied that there were claims of emotional outbursts and questionable strategic choices. He said they were portraying me as a man who was losing control. The idea was absurd, but even as I said it, doubt crept in. Had I been too passionate in recent meetings? Had I defended older strategies too fiercely? Michael confirmed that my behavior was being used against me, adding that Erica had lots of paperwork. The office suddenly felt much smaller. The awards lining the walls and the photos of groundbreaking ceremonies seemed meaningless if my own daughter could take all of this away from me. I asked who else knew about the lawsuit, and he replied that the filing was currently sealed. However, he told me about the shareholders she had recruited, James Corbin, Patricia Wheeler, and 3 others, who were planning a meeting the next day. I gripped the phone tighter as he explained that she had promised them higher dividends under new leadership, her leadership. The betrayal cut deeper than any business loss I had ever faced. Erica was my brilliant, ambitious daughter, the one I had been grooming to eventually take over the company. But not like this. Never like this. I asked him what he needed from me. He said we needed everything: financial records, medical documentation proving my competence, and character witnesses. We were building a defense from scratch in 7 days. I closed my eyes, remembering that just 48 hours earlier, I had been planning to promote her to CEO within the year. Now she was trying to destroy me. I confirmed I was still on the line, my voice sounding foreign to my own ears. I told him to schedule any meetings he needed and that I would clear my calendar. He said that was good and told me not to confront her yet, saying we needed to understand their strategy first. After hanging up, I sat in the growing darkness. The city lights twinkled below, but the warmth had left the room and my life. I gathered my things mechanically, my coat, briefcase, and keys. It was the same routine I had followed for 30 years, but everything had changed in one phone call. The elevator descended in silence. After 50 floors, my legs felt unsteady. In the parking garage, I sat in my car for 10 minutes, hands on the steering wheel, trying to make sense of everything. Erica was having dinner with her family tonight, our weekly tradition. I wondered if I should pretend nothing had happened. The thought of sitting across from her, making small talk while she plotted my destruction, was nauseating. But perhaps I needed to see her face, to study her expressions, and to understand who my daughter had become. I started the engine and pulled into the evening traffic, heading toward Bellevue and toward answers I was not sure I wanted to find. The front door opened before I could even knock. Erica stood there in a cream sweater, her smile perfectly calibrated. She told me I was right on time and that it was freezing outside. She led me inside, and I studied her face for any cracks in her mask. I found none. She said that Sophie had been asking about Grandpa all day and had drawn another picture for me. The house smelled like roasted chicken, but to me, it was a smell laced with deceit. I followed her into the open kitchen where her husband, Trevor, was setting the table. He looked up with a nervous energy, greeting me warmly. His handshake lingered a moment too long. He offered me a drink, asking if I wanted wine or something stronger. I simply asked for wine. I watched Erica as she moved around the kitchen, efficient and controlled, just as she was in board meetings. Then, Sophie bounded in, wearing paint-stained overalls. "Grandpa," she shouted. I lifted her up easily, grateful for something genuine in this house of pretense. I asked her about the picture, and she told me it was us at my office, with me at my big desk and her in my spinning chair. She handed me a crayon drawing with stick figures drawn in my company's colors. It was innocent and trusting, everything her mother was not. "It's beautiful, sweetheart," I said, kissing her forehead. I caught Erica watching us. Something flickered across her expression, maybe guilt, or perhaps calculation. Trevor's voice was too bright as he told Sophie to wash her hands for dinner. Erica moved between the stove and the counter with practiced efficiency. She told me I looked tired and asked if I was resting enough. I felt like she was trying to get information from me. I met her eyes, telling her that work kept me sharp. I asked her how things were going in the finance department. She paused, a wooden spoon halfway to her mouth, and told me that we were not going to talk about work at dinner. I kept my tone light and asked her when this had become a rule. I pointed out that she usually loved discussing quarterly projections. She turned back to the stove and replied that tonight was different, explaining that family time was sacred. I thought about how loyalty used to be sacred. Trevor cleared his throat and mentioned that Sophie had drawn the picture during her art time. He said she had been talking about visiting my office again. I told her maybe next week, wondering if I would even have an office next week. Sophie climbed into her booster seat and asked me to tell her the story about the first computer. I asked her which story she meant, and she told me the one about when I built the company in the garage. I glanced at Erica, who was slicing chicken with surgical precision. I told Sophie that was before her mommy was born, when we had nothing but ideas and determination. Sophie added that Grandma Eliza had helped too. Erica's shoulders tensed as the knife paused. "Yes," I said softly, "Grandma Eliza helped with everything." Silence stretched between us, and Trevor filled it by turning on some classical music. Dinner proceeded with an artificial sense of normalcy. Sophie chattered about preschool, and Trevor talked about his latest architectural project. Erica asked polite questions about my health, my sleep, and my eating habits. Every word she said felt like she was trying to gather intelligence. I complimented the chicken, and Erica said it was her mother's recipe. Her voice had an edge as she mentioned that her mother always said cooking was about love, not perfection. It was another loaded statement. Eliza had often said that to me, trying to get me to spend less time at the office. She was wise about many things. Yes, she was. Erica's fork clicked against her plate. She understood priorities. The accusation hung in the air. Sophie looked between us, sensing the undercurrents. "Grandpa, why are you sad?" she asked. The truth came from a child's mouth. I told her I was not sad and was just thinking about something. She asked what, and I told her I was thinking about how much I loved our family dinners. Erica's eyes met mine across the table. For a moment, I saw the little girl who used to wait by the window for me to come home, but the moment quickly passed. Trevor asked if I wanted more wine, already reaching for the bottle. The evening crawled forward with a fake sense of ritual, dessert, coffee, Sophie showing me her latest drawings. At 8:15, I stood to leave. "Thank you for dinner," I said. As always, it was perfect. Erica walked me to the door. "Dad, are you sure you're okay?" she asked. "You seem different tonight." I studied her face, and the concern seemed genuine. Maybe she had convinced herself that this was for my own good. "I'm fine, sweetheart," I told her. "I'm just reflecting on how much Hansen means to me, to our family." Something shifted in her expression, and I saw a guard go up. "Drive safely," she said. "The roads are slick tonight." I kissed her cheek. She did not pull away, but she did not lean into it either. "Good night, Erica." "Good night, Dad." The door closed behind me with a soft click. I stood on her front steps, rain beginning to fall again. Through the window, I could see her clearing dishes, moving efficiently and methodically, all while planning my destruction. I parked overlooking Lake Union, city lights reflecting off the black water. My hands shook as I dialed Michael's number again. He asked me how dinner went, and I told him it was like a performance, saying she knew how to act concerned while stabbing me in the back. Rain drummed on the windshield. Michael told me everything he had learned. She had been preparing for 6 months and had records of my emotional outbursts at meetings. I asked him what outbursts he was talking about, saying I had always controlled myself. He told me she had documented the Anderson acquisition meeting, saying that when I rejected their lowball offer, I had raised my voice, which she had labeled as irrational anger that was threatening company relationships. I remembered that meeting. I had been passionate, not angry. I asked what else she had documented. He replied that she had documented financial decisions, labeling them as sentiment over strategy, including our charity partnership with Eliza's Foundation and the Employee Retention Program. Those were good decisions, I thought, and profitable in the long term, but she was framing them as emotional choices rather than business logic. My throat tightened. I started the engine, needing to move. Michael told me her timeline was a hearing next Friday. If she won, she would get temporary control while I underwent psychological evaluation. If I refused, the shareholders could vote me out anyway, since she had enough backing. I drove through the empty Seattle streets, processing the scope of her betrayal. She was not just attacking me, she was dismantling everything I had built with careful precision. At home, I climbed to my study. The walls were lined with 30 years of memories, awards, photos, and all the detritus of a successful life. I opened my safe and pulled out the letters Eliza had written during her final months when she knew she was dying. She had tried to warn me about my priorities. She had said that our daughter needed my attention more than the company did and that she thought I did not love her. I had dismissed Eliza's concerns then. Erica was successful, independent, and thriving. How could she doubt my love? But that doubt had apparently festered into something darker. I found the folder labeled Erica Personal, which contained her school records, report cards, and photos from company events where she had stood beside me, proud and eager. When had that pride curdled into resentment? My computer chimed with an encrypted email from Michael. It contained legal documents, a formal complaint from Erica, dense with accusations and medical recommendations. The document stated that the subject displayed increasing emotional volatility and attachment to outdated business practices. It went on to say that my refusal to embrace modern corporate strategies suggested diminished cognitive flexibility, which was consistent with early-stage dementia or depression following spousal loss. They were using Eliza's death against me, using my grief as evidence of my incompetence. I poured 3 fingers of scotch and kept reading. There were character witnesses who had testified to my declining judgment, financial analysts who would argue that my decisions were emotionally driven, and medical experts who were prepared to suggest that I needed compassionate intervention. It was a full-scale character assassination wrapped in concern for my well-being. The brilliance was undeniable and painful. At 1 a.m., I closed my laptop and sat in darkness. Rain continued against the windows, and the house felt enormous and empty. Eliza's photograph watched me from my desk. She had known this day would come and had tried to prevent it. She had said that Erica did not understand why I loved the company more than her, but I did not love the company more. I had built it for her and for our family's future. Every late night, every missed dinner, every sacrifice had been for them. Somehow, I had failed to communicate that. I had failed to show Erica that my ambition was love expressed in the only language I knew. Now she was speaking a different language, the language of corporate warfare, and she had learned it well, too well. I opened my phone and started typing notes, including names of allies, potential strategies, and ways to prove my competence while dismantling her case. If Erica wanted a war, she would get one. But she had underestimated her opponent. I had not built Hansen Tech by surrendering to superior forces. I had built it by outthinking them. The elevator climbed toward Steve's floor with deliberate precision. I shifted the briefcase containing 2 weeks of evidence. It was time to stop playing defense. Steve Wilson's corner office was in the same building as mine, just 3 floors down. It had the same view of Lake Union but a different perspective on everything else. His assistant waved me through. "He's expecting you, Mr. William," she said. Steve looked up from quarterly projections, his reading glasses perched on his nose. "William," he said. "Perfect timing. I was just reviewing these." His familiar blue eyes, filled with 60 years of friendship, looked at me. "We need to talk," I said. I set the briefcase on his conference table with a deliberate thud. "Close the door," I said. Something in my tone made him move quickly. The door clicked shut. "What's wrong?" he asked. "Erica is trying to have me declared incompetent," I said. Steve's face went through 3 expressions in 2 seconds, confusion, disbelief, and then concern. "That's impossible," he said. I opened the briefcase, and the legal documents spread across the polished table like battle plans. "She filed suit 2 weeks ago," I said. "She wants temporary control while I undergo a psychological evaluation." Steve sank into his chair. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" he asked. "I needed to understand the scope first," I replied. I pulled out the shareholder analysis. "Look at this," I said. The document showed our investor base mapped like a military campaign, green for loyal, red for those she had convinced, and yellow for the undecided. There was too much red. "Corbin's already committed," I said. "And Patricia Wheeler too, and 3 others." Steve studied the names. "William," he said. "She promised Corbin a 15% dividend increase." "Based on what?" he asked. "Staff cuts," I said. "She talks about implementing AI and automation." Something cold settled in my chest. That would destroy the company culture we had built for 30 years. "But young shareholders don't understand this," he said. "They only care about numbers." Steve had been monitoring internal communications, and his intelligence, gained through co-founder privileges that gave him access to company email systems, painted a clear picture. Erica had been methodical, approaching each shareholder with tailored promises. Corbin was given profit projections, Wheeler received efficiency studies, and others heard speeches about modernization. "She's selling them a fantasy," I said. "A profitable fantasy." Steve pulled up email chains on his computer. "Look at these revenue forecasts she's sharing," he said. The numbers were aggressive and unrealistic, based on firing half our senior staff and automating customer service. "This isn't innovation," I said. "It's corporate vandalism." "Try explaining that to shareholders watching tech stocks soar," he said. I spread our financial reports across the table. "Our actual performance over 3 years shows steady growth, consistent profits, and satisfied employees," I said. "We've averaged 12% annual growth," I said, "and our retention rate is 94%. Our customer satisfaction scores are industry-leading, but she's promising 25% growth through strategic restructuring." The phrase made me sick. Strategic restructuring. It was corporate jargon for destroying lives. What about Corbin? I asked. Is he completely lost? Steve leaned back. Maybe not, he said. He respects long-term stability, but he's scared of missing the next big wave. Then we remind him what happens to companies that chase every trend, I said. I pulled out a folder marked, Competition Analysis. It contained information about companies that had followed Erica's preferred strategy. Most had imploded within 5 years. Remember TechFlow Industries? I asked. Steve nodded grimly. They automated everything, he said. Their stock price tripled. Exactly, I said. Then their customer service collapsed. Now they're worth 20% of their peak. We spent the next hour mapping out our strategy, deciding which shareholders could be saved, what evidence would convince them, and how to present our case without seeming desperate. The rain outside had intensified. February in Seattle meant constant gray skies, which was perfect weather for corporate warfare. There's something else, Steve said quietly. Her legal representation. Michael had briefed me on it. Laura Blake, I said. She's good. Aggressive. She turns courtrooms into a theater. Then we give her a better show, I replied. Steve's computer chimed with a calendar reminder. There was a routine quarterly review board meeting next week. I knew she would make her move there unless we moved first. I closed my briefcase but left the analysis document spread across Steve's table as visual evidence of our campaign. Schedule a private lunch with Corbin this week, I said. Thursday, at Morton's downtown. It's the perfect neutral ground. I asked him what my angle would be. Fear, I said. Show him what happens to investors who bet against proven leadership. Steve was already reaching for his phone, scrolling through his contacts. The afternoon light was fading outside. In 2 hours, I had transformed from victim to general. Erica wanted a war, and she would get one. But she had underestimated her enemy. I had not built Hansen Tech by surrendering to superior forces. I had built it by outthinking them. Michael's law office was on the 20th floor of Columbia Center. It was all mahogany and leather-bound authority. I arrived 10 minutes early, my briefcase heavy with Steve's intelligence. The receptionist offered me coffee, and I accepted. I knew this would be a long morning. Mr. William, Michael said, appearing in his office doorway. Ready for war. His conference room had been transformed into a command center. Erica's lawsuit documents covered one wall, and my defense materials occupied another. Between them, there was empty space, waiting for our battle plans. Show me everything, I said. Michael lifted a thick folder, Erica's official filing, 47 pages of accusations, evidence, and medical recommendations. I flipped through the pages of surgical character assassination. Every passionate defense of company values had been reframed as emotional instability. Every innovative risk had been repositioned as declining judgment. She was claiming that I had lost touch with market reality. I told Michael that our profits grew 12% last year, but he explained that she was trying to say it was due to her initiatives, not mine. It was a classic case of rewriting history, with herself as the hero. I asked him about her evidence. Michael pulled out a separate stack of papers. It was 6 months of documentation, meetings where I had allegedly shown inappropriate emotional responses, and financial decisions she labeled as sentiment over strategy. The Anderson acquisition, the charity partnership with Eliza's foundation, and the employee retention program, all good decisions and all profitable in the long term, were dismissed as emotional weakness. I asked him about her legal representation. Laura Blake, he said, his expression darkening. He told me she had 38 wins in 42 competency hearings and specialized in family business disputes. She knew how to make loving fathers look like declining patriarchs. I studied Blake's photograph on Michael's computer. She had sharp features and a predatory smile. She was a woman who had built her career on destroying family legacies. Laura Blake is known for turning court sessions into a theater, Michael said. Then we write a better script, I replied. Michael pulled out our defense strategy, which included character witnesses, financial evidence, and medical evaluations that would prove my mental acuity. I had scheduled cognitive assessments with 3 independent doctors, blood work, a psychological evaluation, and a complete physical. I knew it was overkill, but I also knew Blake would question my competence from every possible angle. The irony was bitter. At 62, I was sharper than most men half my age, but Erica had weaponized my grief over Eliza's death. She was claiming a delayed trauma response and emotional deterioration following my wife's passing, which supposedly manifested as poor business judgment and increased volatility. I couldn't believe she was using Eliza's memory against me. The calculation was breathtaking. I asked Michael what our counter-strategy would be. He smiled for the first time that morning. He said we would turn her greatest strength into a weakness. He spread out our own evidence, including Erica's promises to the shareholders, her unrealistic financial projections, and the email chains that showed her 6-month deception campaign. He told me we were filing a countersuit. For what? I asked. Breach of fiduciary duty, conspiracy to defraud shareholders, and intentional infliction of emotional distress, he said. The last charge felt personal, which it was. I asked if it would work. He told me it would force her to defend her own actions instead of just attacking mine. Michael produced a formal document, our countersuit, which was 23 pages of legal accusations wrapped in corporate language. I knew she would be furious. Good, he said. Angry people make mistakes. I signed the papers with steady hands, there was no trembling now, only cold determination. I asked him when we would file. He said we would do it today and that Blake would have it by 5 p.m. The rain outside had turned to sleet. February in Seattle was always brutal, a perfect setting for legal warfare. One more thing, Michael said. The hearing date is March 15th. I quickly calculated that we had 3 weeks, enough time to prepare our witnesses if we moved fast. Michael's assistant knocked on the door and said that Steve Wilson was there for the 11:30 appointment. Steve entered carrying his own briefcase, and I could tell our alliance was expanding. Gentlemen, he said. Ready to save our company? The 3 of us stood around the conference table, looking at the evidence of family betrayal spread across the polished mahogany. Erica wanted to play legal games, I said. Now she gets to learn the rules. Outside, Seattle's skyline disappeared into a gray mist, but inside this room, my clarity was crystallizing. War had been declared, positions had been chosen, and it was time to remind my daughter who taught her how to fight. I arrived 15 minutes early for our meeting, choosing a table by the window that overlooked the market's controlled chaos. March in Seattle brought a tentative warmth, and I watched vendors selling early flowers beneath cloudy skies. My coffee was bitter, which was appropriate for the occasion. Erica appeared at 2:15 sharp, dressed in a charcoal business suit as if armored for battle. She surveyed the cafe before approaching, calculating exits and witnesses. Dad, she said, sitting across from me and maintaining a noticeable distance. Thank you for coming. Your message said it was important. I studied her face. She looked tired and thinner than she had at our last dinner. I could tell that carrying the weight of her deception was not easy, even for her. I asked her how Sophie was. Fine, she said. She's asking about you. The words were an accusation. I was the absent grandfather, the workaholic father, the man who chose business over family. And Trevor? I asked, and her voice was carefully neutral as she replied that he was busy with his projects. We were dancing around the real conversation, like 2 combatants testing their defenses before engaging. Erica, I said. Why didn't you come to me directly? I saw a flicker of surprise and guilt in her expression. About what? She asked, still maintaining the lie. About your concerns, your ideas for the company, and your plans. When I tried, you were always busy with the company, she said. There it was, the heart of everything. I told her that I had built Hansen Tech for her. Her laugh was bitter as she said, "No, Dad. You built it for yourself. I was just an addition." The accusation hit me like a physical blow. "That's not true," I said. "Isn't it?" she replied, leaning forward, her anger breaking through her careful control. She reminded me of every family dinner that had been interrupted by business calls, every vacation that had been cut short for meetings, and every school play that I had missed because of board presentations. Memories of Eliza's disappointed face and Erica's resigned acceptance when I couldn't attend her college graduation ceremony flooded my mind. I told her I was providing for our family. "You were feeding your ego," she said. Silence stretched between us. Outside, market vendors called out their prices, a normal life continuing while we dissected 35 years of accumulated hurt. "I want to modernize the company," she said. "But you block all my initiatives." "I want to preserve what works," I replied. "What works?" she asked, her voice rising slightly. "Dad, we're falling behind. Tech companies are outpacing us. Our systems are outdated. Our methods are antiquated." I pointed out that our methods had built something lasting. "Something that's dying," she replied. She pulled out her phone and showed me industry projections, charts, and graphs that painted Hansen Tech as a dinosaur waiting for extinction. She claimed that automation could increase our efficiency by 40%, AI implementation could cut operational costs in half, and remote work options could expand our talent pool globally. "And eliminate half our workforce in the process," I finished. "Some positions would be restructured," she said. "Destroyed," I replied. "You're talking about destroying lives, families, and people who've given us decades of loyalty." Her jaw tightened. "Business isn't about loyalty, Dad," she said. "It's about results." "When did you become so cold?" I asked. "When I realized sentiment doesn't pay dividends," she replied. The words hung between us like a blade. This wasn't my daughter speaking. This was someone else entirely. "Who taught you that?" I asked. "You did," she said, meeting my eyes directly. "Every time you chose the company over us. Every time you proved that success mattered more than people." I felt something break inside my chest, not anger or betrayal, but understanding. "I never meant." I started to say. "You never meant a lot of things, Dad," she said. "But intentions don't change results." She gathered her phone and purse. "Erica, wait," I said. She stood, looking down at me with Eliza's eyes in a stranger's face. "I'm not the little girl waiting by the window anymore," she said. "I don't need your approval. I don't need your permission. And I don't need your company." "But you want it," I said. "I want to save it from you," she said. She turned and walked toward the exit, her heels clicking against the hardwood floors. At the doorway, she paused. "Give Sophie my love," she said, and then she was gone, disappearing into the market crowd. I sat alone with my cold coffee and an even colder understanding. My daughter wasn't just taking my company. She was taking revenge for 35 years of perceived neglect. And maybe she was right. The courthouse steps were slick with morning rain. I climbed them slowly, my briefcase in hand, watching Erica's legal team arrange themselves like predators. Laura Blake stood in the center, her sharp suit gleaming under the gray Seattle skies. Erica wore navy blue, looking conservative and competent, the beautiful daughter protecting family assets from a declining patriarch. She did not meet my eyes. Inside, the courtroom buzzed with quiet energy. Shareholders filled the gallery, and business reporters and curious attorneys were drawn by the family drama playing out in public. Michael touched my arm. "Remember," he said. "Stay calm. Answer clearly." Judge Harrison called the court to order. He was 70 years old with silver hair and a reputation for a no-nonsense approach. Case number 2025-347, he said. Hansen vs. Hansen Tech Incorporated. Laura Blake rose like a striking snake. Your Honor, she said. This case concerns an aging executive whose judgment has become compromised by grief and stubbornness. She walked toward the jury box, gesturing elegantly, her performance art masquerading as a legal argument. She said that I had lost the ability to make rational decisions, and that my emotional attachment to outdated business practices was threatening shareholder value and employee security. She displayed documents on the screen, including financial charts and meeting transcripts, 6 months of carefully curated evidence. She said that the plaintiff, Ms. Erica Hansen Miller, was seeking temporary guardianship to protect the company her father built from his own declining capabilities. Blake's voice carried across the courtroom like honey-coated poison, professional, persuasive, and deadly. Then Erica took the witness stand, my daughter, my brilliant, ambitious daughter, sworn in under oath to destroy me. Ms. Hansen Miller, Blake began softly. Please describe your father's recent behavior. My father is guided by emotions, not business logic, Erica said, her voice remaining steady. She said that I made decisions based on personal feelings rather than financial data. Can you provide examples? Blake asked. The charity partnership with my mother's foundation, she said. It costs us $200,000 annually with no measurable return. When I suggested redirecting those funds, he became agitated. Eliza's memory was being reduced to a line item. What about strategic planning? Blake asked. He refuses to consider automation or AI integration, Erica replied. He claims it would destroy company culture. Meanwhile, our competitors are gaining market share through technological advancement. Blake nodded sympathetically. How has this affected company performance? She asked. We're stagnating, Erica replied. Growth has slowed. Efficiency metrics lag behind industry standards. It was a lie wrapped in a half-truth. Our growth was steady and sustainable. Our employees were loyal because we treated them as people, not resources. In your professional opinion, what does the company need? Blake asked. Fresh leadership, modern strategies, and a focus on profits rather than sentiment, Erica replied. The words hit me like physical blows. This wasn't my daughter speaking. This was someone else entirely. Michael's cross-examination was surgical. Ms. Hansen Miller, he said. What was Hansen Tech's profit margin last quarter? 12%, she replied. And the quarter before, he asked. 7%, she replied. So, under your father's supposedly incompetent leadership, profits are increasing, he said. Short-term fluctuations don't indicate long-term viability, she replied. What about employee retention, he asked. 94% annually, she replied. He pointed out that the industry average was 67%. So your father maintains higher employee satisfaction than the industry standard while increasing profits, he said. Retention can indicate a resistance to necessary change, she replied. Michael smiled coldly. Or exceptional leadership, he said. Blake objected, and the judge sustained, but the damage was done. James Corbin testified next, looking straight forward and focused on profits. He said that the company needed leadership that prioritized shareholder value and that Ms. Hansen Miller understood modern business realities. When the morning session ended, I felt drained. Watching my daughter publicly dissect my competence required a strength I did not know I possessed. But Michael squeezed my shoulder. Phase 1 is complete, he said. Tomorrow, we fight back. Outside, Seattle's spring rain continued. Erica walked past me without acknowledging me, surrounded by her legal team. My little girl, who used to wait by the window for Daddy to come home, could not wait for me to disappear. My assistant knocked softly. Mr. William, she said. There's something you need to see. Sarah placed a folder on my desk marked Employee Communications, Confidential. Her face was grim. Erica's been holding private meetings promising salary increases that would bankrupt us, she said. I opened the folder. It contained meeting transcripts, email threads, and 6 weeks of secret promises to key employees, including 20% salary increases across engineering, 30% for department heads, and stock options that did not exist. I asked her where she got this. People talk, Mr. William, she said. Especially when promises sound too good to be true. Steve Wilson arrived as I was reading the worst of it. His expression matched Sarah's. We have a problem, William, he said, dropping his own briefcase on the conference table. Erica is approaching new shareholders, pension funds, investment groups, and painting you as an obstacle to explosive growth. Steve pulled out printed emails. He said that Erica was promising employees 20% salary increases based on magic. She's telling them automation will cut costs so dramatically that massive raises are inevitable, he said. The mathematics were impossible. Even full automation would not generate enough savings for the increases she promised. She's committing fraud, I said. It gets better, Steve said, powering up his laptop. I've been monitoring internal communications and found something interesting about her lawyer. Laura Blake's face appeared on screen, a professional photograph attached to a news article. Blake had been sanctioned by the Bar Association 2 years ago for suborning perjury in a similar case and was temporarily suspended from practice. My phone rang. It was Michael's number. William, he said. I have evidence that Laura Blake violated ethical standards. What kind of evidence? I asked. She coached Erica's testimony, he replied. She told her exactly what to say and how to phrase her accusations. That was witness tampering, and the pieces were falling into place. Erica's polished performance had not been natural confidence, it had been scripted. More importantly, Michael continued, I found financial irregularities in Erica's account management. What irregularities? I asked. Erica transferred funds between accounts without your consent on 3 separate occasions, he replied. The total amount is $847,000. The number hit me like ice water. For what? I asked. Legal fees, consultant payments, and campaign expenses for her takeover bid, he replied. I looked at Steve. His expression confirmed he was hearing this, too. That's embezzlement, I said. Technically, it's unauthorized use of corporate funds, Michael said. But yes, it's criminal behavior. Steve leaned forward. This could change the case direction, he said. More than change it, I said. This could destroy her. The irony was bitter. My daughter had wanted to prove my incompetence by demonstrating her own criminal stupidity. I walked to the window, looking out at Seattle's skyline, the city where I had built everything, where Eliza had lived and died, and where our family had grown and fractured. Michael, I said. How do we present this? Carefully, he said. We don't want to look vindictive, just competent. And Blake's ethics violations? I asked. I'll file a complaint with the Bar Association, he replied. And will simultaneously present the evidence to the judge. Steve was organizing documents across my conference table, including financial records, employee communications, and email chains showing Erica's deception. The question is timing, I said. The next hearing is Monday. Blake will expect us to be on the defense again. Instead, we attack, I said. I studied the evidence spread across my office. For 30 years, I had built a company, and my daughter had tried to destroy it with 6 months of lies, but lies eventually revealed themselves. Schedule a meeting with our character witnesses, I said. I want them prepared for aggressive cross-examination. Steve nodded. Already done, he said. Patricia from accounting and David from engineering. They'll testify to your competence and her deceptions. What about the employees she made promises to? I asked. Most are confused, he said. They trusted her, but the numbers don't add up. The late afternoon sun slanted through my office windows. Seattle in April could be beautiful when the rain stopped. I'll head home early, I said. I'll plan our presentation tonight. Steve gathered his documents. We've got enough ammunition to sink a battleship, he said. Let's hope we can aim it accurately. After they left, I sat alone in my office. The silence felt different now, not empty but focused. Tomorrow, we would remind everyone who built Hansen Tech and why it deserved better than my daughter's desperate ambitions. The courthouse felt different this time. Tension crackled like electricity as all parties assembled. Erica sat with Blake, looking confident from their previous performance. They had not seen what was coming. Judge Harrison called the court to order. Mr. Reed, you may present additional evidence, he said. Michael rose slowly and deliberately, a predator who had found wounded prey. Your Honor, he said. The plaintiff conducted unauthorized financial operations. Blake shot to her feet. Objection, she said. This is beyond the scope. Overruled, the judge said. Continue, Mr. Reed. Michael approached the evidence table like a surgeon selecting instruments. During discovery, he said, we found 3 unauthorized transfers from corporate accounts. Total amount, $847,000. The number echoed through the courtroom. Erica's face went pale. These funds were used to finance Ms. Hansen Miller's legal campaign against her father without board approval, without documentation, and without authorization, Michael said. He projected the bank statements onto the courtroom screen, showing the dates, amounts, and recipient accounts. This constitutes embezzlement of corporate funds, he said. Blake was scrambling. Your Honor, she said. These accusations are desperate attempts at discreditation. Desperate? Michael asked. These are bank records. Mathematics doesn't lie. He turned toward Erica. She looked smaller somehow, the confident executive replaced by a trapped woman watching her world collapse. Furthermore, Michael said, we have evidence of witness tampering. Blake's composure cracked completely. That's preposterous, she said. Ms. Blake coached her client's testimony, Michael said. She provided specific phrases, emotional cues, and strategic answers. We have recordings. Judge Harrison leaned forward. Recordings, he asked. Office security cameras with audio capability, Michael replied. Ms. Blake's coaching sessions were inadvertently recorded during building security sweeps. The judge's expression darkened. I want those recordings reviewed immediately, he said. When my turn came to testify, I felt calm, centered, and ready. Mr. Hansen, Michael began formally. How long have you managed Hansen Tech? 30 years, I replied. I founded the company in 1995 with $50,000 borrowed against my house. Our current annual revenue is $247 million, our net profit is $29.6 million, and we have 250 employees. Have you been declared incompetent by any medical professional? He asked. No, I replied. I underwent a comprehensive evaluation last month, cognitive function tests, a psychological assessment, and a physical examination. All results were normal for my age. Michael presented my medical reports, which showed clean bills of health from 3 independent doctors. In your professional opinion, he said, why is your daughter pursuing this legal action? I looked at Erica. She was staring at her hands, unable to meet my eyes. She believes I've prioritized company culture over maximum profits, I replied. She wants to implement automation and cost-cutting measures that would eliminate jobs and reduce employee benefits. Is profit maximization always the correct business strategy? He asked. No, I replied. Sustainable growth requires balancing profitability with employee satisfaction, customer loyalty, and community responsibility. How has this philosophy affected company performance? He asked. We've maintained consistent growth for 30 years, I replied. Our employee retention exceeds industry standards, and our customer satisfaction scores remain in the 95th percentile. Michael nodded. I've managed this company for 30 years and know every number, every employee, and every strategic decision, I said. My daughter wants to sacrifice long-term stability for short-term gains. Blake's cross-examination was desperate. Mr. Hansen, she said. Isn't it true that you've resisted modernization? I've resisted reckless change, I replied. Technology serves business goals, not the reverse. Your daughter claims you're emotionally unstable, she said. My daughter is young and impatient, I replied. She confuses passion with instability and conviction with stubbornness. She says you make decisions based on sentiment, Blake said. I make decisions based on experience, I replied. 30 years of building something lasting. Blake kept attacking, but her arrows were missing their target. The evidence was overwhelming. Erica had overplayed her hand spectacularly. When Corbin testified again, his confidence had evaporated. I may have been overly optimistic about projected returns, he said. Are you still supporting Ms. Hansen-Miller's leadership bid? Blake asked. There was a long pause before he said, I'm reconsidering my position. Blake's closing argument sounded hollow. Despite these allegations, the core issue remains, she said. Mr. Hansen's resistance to necessary modernization. But Michael's response was surgical. The core issue, he said, is whether a daughter can steal her father's company through lies, embezzlement, and witness tampering. Judge Harrison's face was granite. Order in the court. Given the serious allegations of financial misconduct and potential ethics violations, this case required additional review. Erica finally looked at me. Her eyes were Eliza's, filled with confusion and fear. The court will reconvene in 1 week for a final decision. As the courtroom emptied, Erica approached slowly. Dad, she said. For a moment, she looked like the little girl who used to ask for bedtime stories. I never meant for it to go this far. But it did, sweetheart, I said. It did. She walked away with her ruined legal team, leaving me alone with the wreckage of our family. Victory felt hollow when it meant destroying your own daughter. All rise for the Honorable Judge Harrison. The courtroom stood as one, shareholders, lawyers, and family members who had become strangers. I felt Steve's reassuring presence beside me as the judge entered with the weight of his decision. Judge Harrison settled behind his bench, papers arranged with judicial precision. Please be seated. The silence was absolute. 3 months of family warfare had been reduced to this moment. In the matter of Hansen versus Hansen Tech Incorporated, I have reached my decision, he said. My heart hammered against my ribs. Across the aisle, Erica sat rigid in her chair, Laura Blake's hand on her shoulder. After reviewing all evidence, testimony, and documentation, the court finds no grounds for declaring Mr. Hansen incompetent to manage his business affairs. Relief flooded through me like warm water, but it felt hollow. Furthermore, the judge continued, the evidence of financial irregularities and potential witness tampering raises serious concerns about the plaintiff's conduct. Erica's shoulders sagged, and the fight went out of her completely. The case is dismissed, he said. Mr. Hansen retains full control of Hansen Tech Corporation. Steve leaned forward. Justice has prevailed, he said. But justice felt cold when it meant destroying your daughter. Michael shook my hand professionally. Congratulations, William, he said. Your competency has been vindicated. Vindicated? The word tasted bitter. Across the courtroom, James Corbin was already moving toward us, as opportunistic as always. Mr. Hansen, he said. I want to express my full confidence in your continued leadership. Yesterday, he was backing Erica's revolution, but today, he was my loyal supporter. Of course, James, I said. Business as usual. Laura Blake gathered her papers with mechanical precision. Her career had taken a significant blow. Erica sat motionless, staring at her hands. The courtroom began emptying. Reporters scribbled notes, and shareholders whispered strategies. Normal people were returning to normal lives after watching a family tear itself apart. But I couldn't move. Victory should have felt better than this. Steve touched my arm. You did what you had to do, he said. Did I? I asked. Or did I just prove Erica right about my priorities? You protected what you built, what we built, he said. The company was safe, my reputation was intact, and the shareholders were reassured. Everything I had fought for was preserved, except my relationship with my daughter. Erica stood slowly, gathering her purse. Trevor waited by the courtroom doors, and I could see the relief on his face. The ordeal was over for him, too. But she looked so small, so defeated. I made a decision that surprised even me. Erica, I said. She turned, her eyes red-rimmed but dry, with no tears left. Dad, this doesn't have to be the end of our story. Something flickered in her expression, hope and fear. I lost everything, she said. No, I replied. You only lost a battle, not the war with life. Steve was watching us carefully, and Michael pretended to organize papers while listening. Can we talk privately? I asked. Erica glanced at Trevor, and he nodded encouragingly. Not here, she said quietly. Coffee somewhere neutral. I need time to process this. Of course, I said. Then I stepped closer. You're still my daughter. You're still brilliant. You're still capable of great things. Her composure cracked slightly. Even after everything I did, she asked. Especially after everything you did, I replied. It took courage to challenge me, even if the method was wrong. She looked at me with Eliza's eyes, confused and hurt, but seeing something new. I'll call you next week, she said. It wasn't much, but it was a beginning. As she walked away with Trevor, I felt something I hadn't expected, not victory, not vindication, hope. The company was mine, but the family could still be saved. And maybe, just maybe, we could build something better together. 10 days of waiting had led to this bench overlooking Lake Union. The water sparkled in the late afternoon sun, and Seattle's skyline rose like promises behind the trees. I had arrived early, needing time to prepare. This conversation would determine whether we had a future or just a legal past. Erica appeared at 3:15, walking slowly across the grass. She wore jeans and a simple sweater, no business armor, no defensive walls, just my daughter. Dad, she said, sitting beside me and maintaining a careful distance. Thank you for coming. I've been thinking about what you said at the courthouse. The lake lapped against the shore, and joggers passed as normal life continued while we attempted to rebuild ours. Dad, I never felt like you were proud of me, she said. The words hit me like physical blows. Every achievement felt invisible. Every success seemed less important than the next board meeting. I turned to face her fully. I was always proud of you, I said. I just didn't know how to show it. Mom tried to tell you, she said. She said I needed words, not just opportunities. Eliza's voice echoed across 5 years, she needs your attention more than the company does. Your mother was wiser than I gave her credit for, I said. I wanted to prove I was worthy of your love, Erica said. My love doesn't need proof, I said. It's unconditional. She laughed bitterly. Then why did it feel so conditional? Why did every conversation become about work? Why was the company always more important? I stared at the water, watching sailboats navigate toward the harbor. How do you explain 30 years of misguided priorities? I built Hansen for you, for our family's future, I said. Every late night, every missed dinner, every sacrifice. I thought I was providing security. But you were also providing distance, she said. Yes, I was, I admitted. The admission felt like releasing a held breath. I confused providing with parenting and success with love. Erica's eyes filled with tears. I needed my father, not a benefactor, she said. And I needed to learn the difference, I replied. Silence stretched between us, not uncomfortable now, but honest. When I filed that lawsuit, I wasn't just fighting for the company, she said. I was fighting for recognition, for validation that I mattered to you. You've always mattered, I said. I just showed it poorly. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. I nearly destroyed everything, she said. No, I replied. You nearly saved us. How can you say that, she asked. I embezzled money. I lied to shareholders. I tried to have you declared incompetent. You forced honesty, I said. You made us confront what was broken. The lake reflected the afternoon clouds, and Seattle in late spring felt full of possibility. What happens now, she asked. That depends, I said. Do you still want to modernize the company? You trust me with that, she asked. What do you say about shared leadership? Erica stared at me. Are you ready to trust me with part of the company? I asked. I'm ready to trust you with the future of the company, I replied. Her breath caught. Meaning co-COS, she asked. Your innovation, my experience, a partnership instead of a war, I said. You do that after everything, she asked. Because of everything, I said. You were right about modernization. I was right about culture. Together, we could build something Eliza would be proud of. Erica stood, pacing to the water's edge. I watched her process the proposal, seeing Eliza's thoughtfulness in her movements. Full partnership, equal authority, she said. Equal authority, shared responsibility, a father-daughter leadership team, I said. She turned back. What about the board, she asked. Steve is already supportive, I replied. The shareholders want stability and growth. We can provide both. And the employees, she asked. They'll respect the Hansen name, both of us, I said. She walked back and sat closer this time. I have conditions, she said. Name them, I replied. Full transparency, she said. No decisions without consultation. Modern technology implementation. Employee profit sharing program. Agreed, I said. My conditions, I said. Maintaining company culture. Gradual changes, not a revolution. Family time protected. Family time and weekly dinners, she said. No business talk during Sophie's bedtime stories, I said. And Eliza's foundation continues. Erica smiled for the first time in months. Deal, she said. I extended my hand. Partners? She shook it firmly. Partners. Then she surprised me by leaning forward and hugging me tightly. I love you, Dad, she said. I love you, too, sweetheart, I replied. I always have. We held each other by Lake Union as the afternoon faded, father and daughter becoming something new, business partners, family, and future. The kitchen smelled like Eliza's favorite recipe. Erica moved between the stove and the counter with practiced efficiency, but tonight felt different, celebration was in every gesture. Dad, she said. I prepared your favorite dish. I arrived carrying a wrapped package and my grandfather's smile. Something smells like your mother's cooking, I said. Same recipe, same love, she replied. The table was set formally but warmly with candles and good china, the kind of attention reserved for special occasions. Sophie bounded into the room wearing a dress with paint stains. Grandpa, she shouted. Sophie, I said. Grandpa brought you something special. I handed her the wrapped package. She tore through the paper with 4-year-old enthusiasm, revealing a miniature business suit. "For when you're ready to run Hansen," I said. Sophie giggled, holding the tiny jacket against herself. "Will I be the boss?" she asked. "Someday, sweetheart," I replied. "Someday, you might be." Trevor emerged from his office, architectural plans tucked under his arm. "I'm glad we're one family again," he said. "So am I," I replied, meaning it completely. Dinner conversation flowed naturally. Sophie chattered about preschool, Trevor discussed his latest project, a children's museum downtown, and Erica shared preliminary plans for Hansen Tech's technological modernization. Gradual implementation, she emphasized, respecting existing staff while improving efficiency. "The best of both worlds," I agreed. After dessert, Erica produced a manila folder, ready to make this official. The partnership agreement was elegant in its simplicity: shared authority, complementary responsibilities, and dispute resolution protocols, everything two stubborn business leaders needed to work together. "Sophie, are you not sad anymore?" I looked down at my granddaughter, who was observing us with childlike wisdom. "No, sweetheart," I said. "Now Grandpa is happy because Mommy and Grandpa are friends again." "Because we're family again," Erica added. I signed the documents with steady hands. Erica followed, her signature bold and confident. Trevor produced champagne from the refrigerator. "I thought we might celebrate," he said. "Perfect timing," I replied. We stood in the dining room, glasses raised, for generations of family, past, present, and future, united again. "To Hansen Tech's new future," Erica declared. "To family partnerships," I added. "To not fighting anymore," Sophie contributed solemnly. We laughed, our glasses clinking carefully to include her apple juice. Trevor raised his glass higher. "To Eliza," he said. Who would have loved seeing this moment? "To Eliza," we echoed. I felt her presence in the room, in Erica's smile, in Sophie's laughter, and in the possibility of healing. The champagne tasted like hope. "What happens Monday?" Sophie asked. "Monday, Mommy and Grandpa go to work together," Erica explained. "Like a team?" "Exactly like a team," I said. I picked up Sophie, spinning her gently. "The best team in Seattle," I said. Outside, summer was beginning, long days, warm nights, and new possibilities. Inside, we were beginning, too, not the same family we had been before the war, but something better, something honest. As evening deepened, we moved to the living room. Sophie showed me her latest drawings, and Erica and Trevor planned next week's schedule, simple domestic moments that felt profound after months of legal warfare. At 8:30, I prepared to leave, my arms full of Sophie's artwork and my heart full of possibility. "See you Monday, partner," Erica said. "See you Monday, daughter," I replied. The drive home took me through Seattle's familiar streets, past Hansen Tower, past the courthouse where we had fought, and past Pike Place Market, where the truth had first emerged. All of it was leading to tomorrow, to partnership, to family, and to the future Eliza had always envisioned for us. I parked in my Capitol Hill driveway and sat for a moment, looking at Sophie's drawings, stick figures labeled Grandpa and Mommy working together at big desks. It was a 4-year-old's vision of harmony, the perfect business plan.